They laughed before I even reached the table. A circle of polished faces, perfect smiles, perfect judgments. Then she pointed. The bride-to-be, young, sharp, threw back her head and yelled, loud enough to cut glass. "The stinky country boy is here." The laughter swelled. I felt it like cold water down my back. My son looked at me, eyes glossy, embarrassed, guilty. He took my hand. His fingers were trembling. He leaned in, whispering like it was the kindest thing he could do. "Don't say anything, Dad, just be quiet." That whisper felt like a verdict. And with that one breath from my own boy, I felt my life shrink to the size of a secret. I had spent 64 years trying to be a man he could be proud of. On that day, in front of everyone he loved, he chose to be ashamed of me instead. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and drop a quick comment telling us where you're listening from. I reply to early comments. Your support helps these stories get heard. My name is Robert Hale. I'm 64 years old and I live quietly in Amherst, Virginia. I raised Daniel alone after his mother left, worked my hands raw, fixed cars, cut lawns, and scraped together small moments of pride. I never expected that the price of all that care would be public humiliation on the day my son married the woman I welcomed into our home. But humiliation was only the first knife. What happened next revealed things about my son, about our family, that I'd never imagined. The reception hall smelled like lemon polish and cheap cologne. Glass clinked, forks tapped on plates. I hadn't wanted to be there, but Daniel, my son, asked me to come early. "Dad, please," he said, "just sit up front, smile, don't embarrass me." So I dressed in my best jacket, a jacket with a seam I'd repaired myself. My hands still smelled faintly of motor oil. I smiled when people looked my way. I laughed at the toasts. I answered small talk with small answers. Then she arrived. Claire, his fiancée. New hair, new laugh that hit the air like a bell. They sat us at a round table near the band. I took my seat, and across from me, a row of their friends, bright and sharp, watched like judges. The wine glasses filled. Someone told a joke, people laughed, and then she turned. Her face hardened like glass. She pointed. "The stinky country boy is here," she threw out, voice bright and cruel. A beat of silence like someone flipping off a light. Laughter peeled out of the group like waves. Some were half laughs, some were meaner. I felt it in my shoulders, an old shame, a familiar ache. Daniel looked at me, the color drained from his face. He took my hand, his fingers squeezed once. "Don't say anything, Dad," he whispered. "Please, just be quiet." I opened my mouth. Something in me wanted to roar, to stand, to tell them I worked my fingers raw so he could go to college, to tell them I fixed his first car, to tell them the little things that don't make newspapers but make a life. But his hand on mine was warm and steady and trembling. His whisper, soft, urgent, felt like pressure on a wound. So I held my tongue. I swallowed the pride in the words. I watched the laughter move around me like a slow storm. After the applause simmered out, Claire mouthed a small, polite line, turned her attention to the cake. Her friends gossiped about destinations and designers. "Country boy," someone murmured near my shoulder. I forced a laugh and drank my water. Inside, my head spun. Daniel's sister, Mara, caught my eye and mouthed, "I'm sorry." Her hand brushed my sleeve like an apology. Mara has always been the quiet one, steady as a stone. She never liked his fiancée. She de-warned me months ago in private. "Dad," she had said, "watch how she looks at you. It's not kind." I'd shrugged it off. Loved ones see the worst sometimes where there is none. Now I felt small and exposed. The band began to play a slow song. Daniel stood and asked Claire to dance. He shot me a look, brief, complicated, something like shame, something like a plea. He walked away and left me at the table. People clinked glasses. Conversations resumed. Someone asked me about my work. I babbled about small repairs and a community lawn mowing service I ran. A few polite nods, that was it. Then a woman leaned over my shoulder with a camera. "Smile for the family album, Grandpa," she chirped. I managed to smile, because I'd been a grandfather too once, to a boy now grown. When the reception ended, people drifted toward the porch. I stayed to help clear a few cups. Hands that had fixed engines now folded napkins. That's when I noticed the envelope, a cream envelope tucked under a folded program on my chair. Old school handwriting on the front, my name. I slid my finger under the flap. Inside, 2 folded pages. My breath caught. The first line in tight ink, "Robert, this is for you." I looked up at the crowd, watching the dance. A man in a navy suit stood by the bar, eyes like a hawk. I didn't know him, but he watched the doorway like he owned the moment. I unfolded the paper. Short sentences at first. You were never meant to know. What did that mean? Then a list, dates, names, places, a line read, Maple Street, October. You remember the night you fixed the fence? My hand went cold. I remembered that night. 2 years back, rain, a loose board, Daniel laughing as I climbed the ladder. My pencil-scarred memory reached for it like breath. Another line, you left your toolbox under the shed. You forgot the wrench. I frowned. I had left a wrench there that week. I remembered because Daniel had teased me about the missing wrench. The next line was worse. If you keep being what you are, if you keep talking to the wrong people, the secret will find the light. My stomach clenched. A secret. What secret? I read on. Names of people I knew, neighbors, clients, a trail of tiny clues like breadcrumbs. At the bottom, we decided, the wedding cleans things up. If you resist, they'll help you be quiet. The ink smudged as if someone had double-checked what they'd written. I folded the letter back into the envelope as my pulse thundered. Two things happened at once. Daniel slid back into his chair. He looked at me face blank like someone who had practiced the absence of feeling. Dad, he said quietly, everything okay? Hot fear sharpened my voice. Who sent this? I asked. He flicked his gaze to the dance floor, out to the men in suits, to the woman at the bar. Probably some drunk, throw it away. His words were casual, too careful. I wanted to believe him. But the way his jaw worked tighter than necessary told me a different temper. A server passed close by. The man in the navy suit moved toward the exit. My heart pounded. I reached for the envelope again. My fingers trembled. Staples of memory rattled in my skull. The band shifted into a faster tune. Clapping, laughing, I stood, a small cough. All heads turned like cameras. I cleared my throat. I began. Daniel's hand squeezed mine. Dad, he mouthed silently. Sit down. The room felt suddenly small, an insect jar. And then somewhere near the bar, a glass shattered. Heads turned, a scuffle. A voice rose sharp, too loud. She's ruined, someone shouted. People surged, leaning toward the chaos like a flock of birds. My pulse turned to ice. I looked down at the envelope again. The name at the bottom of the list stared up at me. M. Ellison. That was Claire's mother, the woman who'd led the laughter. My hands went numb. If Claire's mother put that there, if Daniel knew, if they were part of it, then my son's whisper earlier, don't say anything, took on a new, poisonous shape. I slid the paper back into my pocket. My body felt heavier. The laughter turned into shouting. I heard Daniel shout someone's name, sharp, angry. And then he said in a voice like an ultimatum, Dad, leave, go home, now. My feet felt rooted, go home, as if walking out would make the paper vanish. As if leaving would make me a ghost in my own life. I stood. The banquet hall seemed a tunnel. Outside, the night was cold and bright. People swirled around the doorway. And on the far edge of the lawn, two figures stood under a lantern. The man in the navy suit, Claire's mother beside him. They watched the door like tax collectors. I felt something else then, not shame alone. A fear that moved through me like frost, because the envelope had said one final thing, thin, deliberate. We will tidy things. Weddings make things neat. My son reached out, still holding my hand. Please, he whispered, not meeting my eyes. Just go. I looked down at his face long enough to memorize it. Young, expensive, tired of me. And I made a choice. I nodded. I stood to leave. But as I walked out into the night, the men by the lantern lifted their heads and I heard, clear as any bell, the sound of one of them dialing a phone. The number clicked, and a voice calm and precise said, we're about to make a call. My steps froze on the porch. The night swallowed me, because I finally understood the last, awful stitch in that letter. This wasn't just a funeral dressed as a wedding. It was a clean-up, and my name was at the center. I walked to my truck like a man leaving a church for the last time. Night air hit my face sharp and cold. My hands trembled. The envelope burned in my pocket. The lanterns threw long shadows across the lawn. The man in the navy suit and Claire's mother watched us go. Daniel didn't walk me to the car. He stayed by the door like he was protecting something. When I climbed in, I fumbled with the keys. They slid in, but the engine didn't turn over at first. My head was full of two thoughts, the letter. I drove slow down the lane. The town felt smaller at night. People waved from porches. Music leaked from a late bar, but my neighborhood lights looked different, too bright, or maybe I was seeing ghosts. At home, Mara was waiting on the porch. She'd left the reception earlier. She hugged me without asking. "You okay?" she asked. "No." I handed her the envelope. She read it in 2 breaths, her face drained. "Robert," she whispered, "this looks professional. Someone didn't just scribble this." "Claire's mother," I said. "M. Ellison." She put it under my chair. Mara made a sound like someone winded. "She's dangerous in town politics," she said. "She runs a committee and keeps people's secrets tidy." "Tidy," I repeated. She looked at me with those steady eyes. "Don't go back tonight," she said. "Come in, we'll talk." Inside, my house smelled of oil and lemon soap. I made coffee with hands that shook. Mara sat opposite me and unfolded the list. She tapped names with a thumbnail: neighbors, clients, times. "This is a map," she said slowly. "Someone made a map out of your life." "Why me?" I asked. "Why now?" She looked down. "Because there are gaps in your past, Robert. You know that. People talk, people curse quietly." My stomach tightened. "Who would want me quieted?" Mara's face hardened. "There are developers pushing property. There are people who don't like a man who speaks up at council meetings. People who keep you mowing lawns instead of owning a piece of change." I thought of the shed, the old fence, the wrench. I stood and went outside. My toolbox rustled in the back of the truck, but the drawer where I kept my old wrench set was empty. Not just missing, pried open. Someone had been through my things. I called Daniel, voicemail. Then I called Claire, disconnected. Then I called Ethan, no, wrong name, my neighbor Tom, who ran the hardware store. "Tom, can you come over?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "I'm 2 minutes away, stay put." Tom arrived like a shot of daylight. He clicked his truck off and whistled low when he saw the open drawer. "They took your tools," he said flatly. "Look staged, they want you to feel small." "How do you know?" I asked. Tom shrugged. "Because they left this." He handed me a scrap of paper, blue like from a receipt. On it, one word: quiet. My chest tightened. "Tom, do you know the Ellisons?" I asked. He spat low. "They keep a ledger. They smooth finances for projects. Folks who cross them get called chickens. Don't poke the nest, Robert." I de-poked before. At a town meeting 2 years ago, I'd stood up against a strip mall plan. They'd laughed then. Now their feathers rose. That night sleep didn't come. I checked my cameras, old ones I'd set by the driveway after a few break-ins last winter. Footage from 3 hours ago showed a van, dark, no plates, 2 figures handing something to a man at the edge of the lawn. The man wore a dark jacket. He looked like he'd been at the reception. He walked to the marquee table. He slipped something under a program. The camera shook as they left. I froze the frame. The jacket navy. The man broad shoulders. My hands went cold. The same man who watched the exit at the wedding. They were tidy. They were organized. This wasn't a prank. It was a plan. The next morning, I went to the diner. Nothing heals like a coffee and a seat at the counter. I sat and watched faces. A woman poured syrup across a waffle and said hello. A man read a paper. I tried to be ordinary. Then the phone beneath the counter buzzed. A number flashed, unknown. I answered. A voice spoke, clipped and calm. "Robert Hale, stop digging. Leave town by sundown or we'll do the cleaning for you." The line clicked dead. My hand went cold. I told the waitress to hold my cup and walked out. Whoever called knew my name, knew where I sat. They wanted me gone. I thought of the envelope, the list of names. The line, "Weddings make things neat." They weren't just cleaning gossip. They were sweeping. I went to the hardware store. Tom met me at the door with a look I didn't need explained. "They called you too," he said. Same voice, same threat. We stood in the paint aisle. "Report it," I asked. Tom shook his head. "They'll mark the town as hard to do business with. People will be scared. They'll cut ties." "Then what?" I said. "Do nothing." Tom stared at me. "You can fight," he said slowly, "but you'll need more than coffee and stubbornness." I thought of Daniel's hand squeezing mine at the reception. His whisper, "Be quiet." Did he know? Was he part of it? I left Tom and drove to the house. My heart beat hard as the driveway approached. The truck in the yard was the van, parked across the street. Dark windows, empty seats. I grabbed the envelope from my jacket pocket and felt brittle paper under my fingers. On the passenger seat, on top of the programs, was a photograph. My photograph, taken from my porch. In it, I was asleep in my chair the week before, head back and mouth open. Someone had watched me in my home. On the back, in the same tight handwriting as the envelope, a single sentence: "We like neat endings." I dropped the photo. My knees gave, because the final, ugly truth settled like soot in my lungs. They didn't just want me quiet, they wanted me gone. And someone in my family, someone I loved, might be helping them. I reached for the truck door and my phone vibrated again. A message: tonight, midnight, Maple Street, come alone. No signature, just a place, just a time, and the word that echoed in my skull like a judge or else. My hands shook so badly I fumbled the keys. I looked at the house, the lighted window where Mara stood watching, and realized there was no longer any place I could hide. I had a choice: ignore it and hope it was a bluff, or go and find out who had written my name on that list. I started the engine. I drove for Maple Street. Maple Street was almost empty at night, a row of tired houses with porch lights glowing like lonely lanterns. Midnight, wind, silence. My headlights cut across cracked pavement. Then I saw it, a single street lamp flickering over the corner lot, and under it a figure, not the navy suit man, not Claire's mother, someone smaller, leaner, a hood pulled low. They didn't move when I parked, didn't wave me closer. They just waited. I stepped out of the truck. The cold bit my arms through my jacket. Robert Hale, the figure said. The voice was young, too young. Who are you? I asked sharply. They didn't answer. Instead, they tossed something across the pavement. It skidded to my feet, a flash drive. It has the video, the person said. Take it before they find me. My heart struck the inside of my ribs. What video? The figure looked over their shoulder, shaking. There's no time. They shouldn't have dragged you into this. You were supposed to walk away. Walk away from what? Their breathing hitched. The meeting, from the files, from the land deal. What land deal? I snapped. Then they said something that made the night folds freeze around us. Your son already knows. My stomach dropped. Daniel, I whispered. The figure nodded urgently. He's in deeper than you think. I stepped forward. What does my son have to do with any of this? They backed up an inch. He's not the monster here, the person said. He just made bad choices, desperate ones. What choices? The figure inhaled sharply. He signed off on the acquisition plan, your property included, without telling you. My property, I repeated, numb. Yes, the figure said. Your land is sitting on the only clean groundwater pocket in the development zone. He sold the rights under your name. I felt the road tilt beneath me. No, I said. My son wouldn't do that. He doesn't even know about that well. He knows, the figure whispered. He's known for 2 years. A car engine roared at the end of the street. Headlights swung like blades. The figure flinched. They found me run. They shoved me hard toward my truck. The car barreled forward fast, too fast. The person sprinted into the alley, hood flying. I dove into the truck as the black sedan screeched behind me. Something hit the door, metal on metal. I slammed the engine into gear and shot forward. The flash drive burned in my pocket. My tires screeched against the asphalt. The sedan followed. The chase was short. My truck couldn't outrun a car built for speed. So I swerved hard into an old service road and cut the lights. The sedan flew past. I exhaled slow, shaking. When I reached home, Mara was pacing the living room. Dad, where were you? I called 6 times. I held up a hand. Lock the door, I said. Now, she froze at the sound of my voice. Then she locked it. I dropped the flash drive on the table. Mara stared at it. What's that? Evidence, I whispered. Of something Daniel is mixed up in, something ugly. Her face went pale. Dad, what did they say? That my son sold our land rights, I answered. And that the people behind it want me gone. She sank into a chair. No, she whispered. Daniel wouldn't, Mara, I said quietly. Do you know where he is right now? She shook her head. I powered up my old laptop and plugged in the flash drive. A single file appeared. Hale contract meeting. MP4. My fingers trembled as I clicked. The video opened in a conference room. 3 people sat at a table, one of them my son. Daniel looked polished, presentable, nervous. Claire's mother sat beside him, flipping through a folder. And at the head of the table, the man in the navy suit. My throat tightened. The audio was clear. Once the signatures are in place, the navy suit man said, the property transfers cleanly. No mess, no delays. Daniel nodded stiffly. And my father? Daniel asked. He won't fight it, Claire's mother scoffed. He'll sign whatever you put in front of him. He always does. My heart lurched. They were talking about me. Daniel leaned forward, whispering, my dad is old school. He trusts me. He won't dig into it. The navy suit man smiled a tight, cold smile. Good, because if he finds out what we're doing, he tapped a folder labeled Hale Water RIGHTS. He'll never forgive you, Daniel swallowed. I'll handle him. Claire's mother chimed in, and if he becomes difficult, we clean it up. Just like we discussed, my blood turned to ice. Clean it up. The same phrase from the envelope. The same phrase on the picture. The same phrase whispered at the wedding. Daniel shifted in his seat and whispered, "He won't. I'll make sure he stays quiet." I paused the video. The room felt like it was shrinking. Mara covered her mouth. "No," she whispered. "No, my brother didn't say that." I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. The weight of the betrayal hit like a sledgehammer. My son, my own blood, had agreed to silence me. I stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. "So this is why he grabbed my hand at the wedding," I said. "This is why he told me to be quiet." Mara shook her head, tears spilling. "Dad, what are we going to do?" I stared at the paused video. Daniel's face frozen in guilt. "We're going to confront him," I said. Tonight, my phone buzzed. A new text from an unknown number. "It's time. Stop running. Come to the barn on Willow Road. Alone." I gripped the phone until my knuckles went white. "Dad," Mara whispered, "don't go, it's a trap." I nodded. "It is." "Then why go?" I looked at my trembling daughter. "Because my son will be there." And then the house went dark. Lights out, power cut. Footsteps crunched outside on gravel. Slow, deliberate, they had come early. The house plunged into darkness so suddenly that the hum of the refrigerator felt like it was ripped from the walls. Mara gasped and grabbed my arm. "Dad, they're here." I moved her back slowly, my breath steady despite my racing pulse. Through the front window, the moonlit outline of 3 figures stood in my yard. One tall, one short, one familiar, Daniel. My hands shook. The soft crunch of gravel grew louder as they approached the porch. A knock, not violent, not panicked. A slow, deliberate knock that told me one thing: they believed they already won. Without warning, the doorknob turned. Locked. A pause, then Daniel's voice muffled. "Dad, open up, let's talk." I swallowed hard. Talk, after signing away my land, after selling me out to people who used the word clean up like a threat, after humiliating me at his wedding. I opened the door halfway. The porch light flickered weakly, casting Daniel's face into a strange half-shadow. His eyes were tired, red-rimmed. Not entirely cruel. Behind him stood the navy suit man and Claire's mother, like handlers waiting to see how their puppet would perform. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, protecting Mara inside. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Dad, good. I didn't want to do this inside. It'll be easier out here." "Easier for who?" I asked. He avoided my eyes. "Look, there's a misunderstanding." I pulled the flash drive from my pocket and held it up between 2 fingers. "A misunderstanding like this." Face drained, the navy suit man stiffened. Claire's mother crossed her arms. Daniel took a step forward. "Dad, please just hear me." "I heard you," I said, "in the video, talking about keeping me quiet." His voice cracked. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" I demanded. "Tell me." He took a breath, then another. Finally, he whispered, "They had leverage." Leverage, a word that tasted like poison. "What leverage?" I asked. He looked over his shoulder at the 2 shadows who owned him. "They knew about the loan," he whispered. "The one I took out during college, the one you never knew about." I blinked. "A loan?" He nodded. "I borrowed from someone I shouldn't have. I was drowning. Then they came along. They said they'd erase everything if I helped them get the land." My heart cracked. "And you agreed to ruin me to save yourself." He swallowed. "Dad, I thought you didn't care about the land. You never talked about it like it mattered." A bitter laugh escaped my throat. "That land is our family's memory. It's where you learned to walk, where your mother planted her garden." His face contorted. When I mentioned his mother, something inside him broke. The navy suit man stepped forward. "Enough sentiment," he said. "We had an agreement. Your son is a reasonable young man. You will be too." I stared at the man, then at Claire's mother. Her lips were pressed so thin they nearly disappeared. "You both watched me at the wedding," I said. Humiliated, mocked. Her smile flickered. "Well," she said coolly, "you're not exactly the presentation type." Daniel winced. The navy suit man reached into his coat and pulled out a folder. He held it out to me. "Sign this," he said. "Transfer the remaining property rights. We'll pay you handsomely. You'll disappear from the narrative." Disappear, not leave. Disappear. My blood went cold. "And if I don't sign?" The man smiled with no warmth. "Robert, you're old, you're alone, and accidents happen on dark roads." Daniel flinched. "Stop," he snapped at the man. "Don't talk to him like that." But the man ignored him. "Your son already agreed to handle you. He just didn't have the stomach to finish it." Daniel's face twisted with shame. "Dad, I didn't know they'd go this far," he whispered. I thought it was just business. The Navy suit man stepped closer. It is business, he said. Sign the papers, be done with this. I looked at my son, really looked at him. He wasn't the boy who held my hand at the county fair. He wasn't the kid who fell asleep on my chest when thunderstorms scared him. He was a man now. A man cornered by wolves who'd convinced him he could become one of them. I folded the papers slowly. The man extended a pen. Daniel watched me with wide, terrified eyes. Dad, please, just sign. Let's walk away from this. I took the pen, clicked it once, twice, then I handed it back. No, the Navy suit man's eyes darkened. Daniel froze. Claire's mother sighed as if bored. We warned you, she said softly. Then the Navy suit man stepped toward me, too close, his hand reaching inside his jacket. Daniel gasped, wait, but before the man could pull anything out, a shotgun cocked behind us. All four of us turned. Mara stood on the porch, barefoot, shaking, but holding my old hunting shotgun steady as steel. Her voice was low and shaking. You're not touching my father. The Navy suit man raised both hands slowly. You don't want to do that. Try me, she whispered. He took a step back. Claire's mother hissed like she'd bitten into something sour. This is ridiculous, she snapped. You can't fight us, Mara stared coldly. You're on private property, she said. This is trespassing with intent. Walk away before I call the sheriff. Daniel looked between us, caught between blood and betrayal. Dad, he whispered, tears sliding down his cheeks. I'm sorry, I didn't want any of this. I stepped toward him. He flinched, expecting anger. Instead, I put my hand on his shoulder. Son, I said softly, I raised you to be strong, not perfect. Strong. He broke. Collapsed into my arms like a child. I messed up, he sobbed. I messed up so bad. I know, I whispered, and you're going to fix it. The Navy suit man glared at us. This isn't over, he growled, but Mara cocked the shotgun again, louder this time. Yes, she said, it is. They backed away. Quick steps on gravel. Car doors slammed. The sedan peeled into the night with a hiss like a snake retreating. Silence. Finally, silence. Daniel cried into my shoulder until the sun almost broke the horizon. Mara lowered the shotgun and leaned against the rail, shaking. I put my arms around both of them. My children, my future, my fight. Daniel whispered, Dad, how do we fix this? I looked at the rising sun. We start, I said, by stopping our silence. Because silence is what they wanted, and silence is how they win. Not today, not anymore, not in my family.